absolutely beautiful Aries friends, and welcome to your horoscope for 2025. We're in this forecast. First of all, let me tell you up front, there are timestamps in the description box down below, so you can click to the individual forecast that you are looking for, because 5 experts in their realm of astrology are going to be guiding you through this year's particular horoscope forecast. We are going to be covering the general transits that I will take you through. Rachel Lang is going to take you through relationships. Sama is going to take you through career and financial. Kira has got you together for that medical forecast, and Tiffany is going to take you through spiritual development. Now, this year, beautiful Aries friends, this forecast is built for you to listen to it a little bit at a time and go back to it kind of podcast style. Put it on in the background. Take each section piece by piece by piece and really get all the juice out of what your experts are sharing with you, because this was thought of with you in mind to help guide you through 2025. Make sure you are prepared, you are supported, and you are going into 2025 knowledgeable. And I'm telling you, we've got charts, we've got dates, we've got information, we've got impact. It's all in here for you, Aries. So make sure you take advantage. And again, those timestamps are in the description box down below. Now, if we haven't met before, I'm practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace, and I am thrilled to have you here, whether you're coming back or it's the first time. Here, I've got lots of resources for you to learn the language of astrology and apply it to your life. Now, if you haven't already grabbed your 2025 digital transit calendar from our friends at Wise Skies Collective, click in the description box down below, grab it so that you can follow these transits all year long. The best astrology is your astrology. So grab the transit calendar so you can follow this against your chart. And if you do not have your chart, please click in my description box down below and get it, because that will make the difference of what you experience this year, how you experience this year, because the best astrology is your astrology. I've got all kinds of goodies for you in the description box down below. But into 2025 we go. And Aries, what a beautiful year. With Saturn and Neptune moving into your sign in 2025, you are in for a year. First of all, we know that is deeply transformative. It's deeply transformative, but it's also a year, Aries, that I like for you because it's a welcoming back to some really delicious self-discovery. Some self-discovery that leads you to your next life, what you will do in your next life, and it has all to do with growth. Now, Saturn in Aries is going to bring that discipline. It's also going to show you where you're saying no, you're setting boundaries. You're like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm over here, I'm playing my guitar. I can't do that. I'm sorry very much. And I'm very excited for you to practice those boundaries. And then Neptune's going to be calling in this energy for you that is about exploring what is your new ideal self? Who are you? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Where is your creativity? Where's your play? And it's also going to ask you to really tap into your intuition. Right? What is your intuition telling you? And then not questioning it, but following it. So there is a lot coming that is going to be a game changer. And being Aries, you're the sign that starts us out. So this is a cycle that is a fresh start for not only the rest of the world, but Aries in your sign. This is a welcoming back to you with a really fresh perspective. Now let's jump in and talk about the rest of these transits as they are coming. And I'm going to take them by month so that you can keep up with them. And I've also got them on the screen here for you. All right, Aries, coming into 2025, we are coming in with the brakes on. We are not coming in fast. We're not like, yes, I'm here to win. That is not it. Your ruling planet is in retrograde. So Mars being not only your ruling planet, but our planet of action, movement, doing what I'm driven to do. It's in retrograde as we come into 2025. Now, at this point of the retrograde, Mars is retrograde in the vibration of Leo, and this is lighting up your 5th house space. So first of all, the theme as we're coming into this Leo vibration and with this Mars retrograde is about revisiting you, your creative expression, your pleasure, your play. What are past hobbies or interests or creative pursuits that had your attention before and maybe you had to put them down? Maybe now you're reconsidering how you approach them or what they still mean to you at this time, because Mars here, as it is completing its retrograde in this Leo portion, it's not the last time we're going to see it. In fact, Mars is going to blow back over this as it comes out of its retrograde time. But first, it's asking you to take an introspective time to say, is that an old hobby that I've outgrown? Or is it something that I just need to pick back up? And it can be laden with frustration. A Mars retrograde can be laden with frustration. You're like, how come I found it and now I can't make it happen, right? And other things. The fifth house also has to do with your children, has to do with things you're taking a risk, has things to do with romance. So maybe it's frustrating. You're not able to make it go forward at the speed and the pace that you would like it to. I would like to suggest to you and invite you to just reflect here. Remember, this is a Mars retrograde, so reflect. First of all, reflect on what really excites you and what truly motivates you. Because an Aries who is motivated will go in the direction of the motivation. If you are not motivated, it is like the little engine that could not. You know what I'm saying? So as you're experiencing the rest of this retrograde, take an introspective look at your own creativity. Help your children with things that are coming back for them that maybe need a little bit of redoing or re-looking over. Now, as we get to the 7th, okay, so that was on the 6th. Now, just here on the 7th, we see Mars clicking that retrograde back into the vibration of Cancer. So now this is going to be the time where we are going back over all the domestic things: home, family, real estate, property, your own internal emotional foundations. There can even be things that come up for you, Aries, at this time around your family, around emotional security, okay? So as Mars is retrograding here in your 4th house, first of all the things around home, all the things around the family dynamics, what motivated you from childhood that's not working anymore? What are stories of your family from the past where you're needing to revisit them because you need to resolve some unresolved issue that's there. And maybe it's even something you need to take action on at that time. You need to talk to your mom. You need to clean out your parents' things. You need to sell that old house. You know, whatever the dynamic is, Mars is calling you back here. And I really do think for some of you, 2025, with setting up so many boundaries and moving to next year to your new creativity, what really has been living in their Aries will naturally pull you back to your childhood roots, because it's like you got to go back. The universe takes you back to the place where the creative little you got stuck, and you are issued this invitation to come forward and build an identity. You did the things you were supposed to. Now where's the place that you want to play? And whatever this is, this may inspire you to create more security around this. Now, for some of you too, I think this is really just straight on practical. You may be buying a house. You may be buying a house, selling a house, renovating a house. It's something very family motivated, right? You're like, I'm going to buy a house so that I can move my parents closer to me, or I can move closer to them, or I can put my children over here, right? It can be very, very practical. Whatever it is, as you're finishing this retrograde, which is going to take us all the way to February 23rd, I invite you to, first of all, take time, Aries, to nurture your own inner emotional security and foundations, because we have to make sure that the Aries house is in order before we're going to go hand oxygen masks to other people, right? Create boundaries in your relationships, especially in your familial relationships. Sometimes you have to tell people, no, honey, you have to tell them no, right? And then the no here is going to be about Cancerian things, supporting your emotional security and well-being. Focus on activities that provide a sense of comfort and nurturing in your home space. Because Aries, you have to like where you live, not only from the inside of your body, but to the space you're in, if that Aries energy is going to stay motivated. Okay, on the 11th, we see the true North Node. And if you don't know the difference between the true North Node and the mean North Node, make sure you check out my video on the true and the mean North Node so that you know what that is. But on January 11th, we'll see that the true North Node is going to shift into Pisces, lighting up your 12th house space. And we'll see that that South Node shifts into Virgo, lighting up your 6th house space. So in this dynamic. Now, the theme that this brings in with us for the nodes, because the nodes are destiny points, right? First of all, we're going to have a separate video talking all about the nodes, but you were here about 20 years ago. You were here, okay? And this is a theme of spiritual growth. It's about releasing perfectionism. It's about creativity and what's just creative because it is, and releasing it has to be practical or it can't be done. It's about embracing inner peace and the steps that need to happen to get you to that particular point. So as this particular transit is happening for us all the way until 2026 through 2026, I would encourage you to connect with your inner self. Connect with that creativity, but also Aries, it's in the 12th house, right? Connect with the spaces that are patterns of beliefs, behavior that can lead to your own undoing. Also, Aries, treat the things that you need to treat. If you have addiction in your life, if you have depression, if you have any of these things that are more behind the scenes, make sure you're stepping in to treat them and to care for yourself. Now, the 12th house is also the space of people who are of a specialized population. We're thinking people who are very much so older, people who are babies, maybe they're in the NICU, maybe you have someone in your life who has Asperger's, or they have something else about them that would put them in a specialized population category, and you may be moving more to that in some way. You're growing in that direction, and it's bringing a lot of life. It's bringing destiny meetups to you, right? And on the other side, in this 6th house, in that Virgo placement, you're moving away from being so self-critical. You're moving away from having to have a daily routine that is so structured that it doesn't actually leave you room to be creative and bridge these two particular axes together, because you do want the nodes to bridge each other. You want them to intersect with each other instead of get bigger, okay? So embrace a practice. You're going to have time to practice this, Aries. So embrace a practice, though, that is something like bringing meditation into your life and go with it. Go where the meditation goes. Bring dream analysis into your life and just go with it. Let it bring clarity, right? Let the judgment go. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be in a particular arrangement and alignment. But prioritize here creativity, inner peace, compassion, forgiveness, some surrender, right? And balance that with taking practical actions to bring that to reality. Now, on March 1st, let's jump forward just a little bit. We're heading towards some springtime. Okay, on March 1st, we're going to see that Venus is retrograde. Now, as Venus is retrograde, it's again another personal planet, so it's close to us, so we really feel it. And when Venus is retrograde, we are assessing, first of all, how we attract things to us. This is in your sign. This is in Aries, in your 1st house. So Aries, you're literally looking at what are the containers of how I'm showing up, presenting myself, identifying myself, especially in relationships, especially around money. And those containers are drawing certain things to me. Am I showing myself as a small, quiet, afraid Aries, and so I am drawing scarcity and little opportunity to me? Or am I stepping into my big kid Aries shoes, and so I am pulling towards me different resources? Because Venus is not our hustler planet. Venus attracts and realizes that the power is in the receptivity. You put it out there and let Venus call it to you, but you got to get in alignment with that Venus vibration. Now, the other thing to keep in mind about Venus retrograde is it is a time for reflection. You're reflecting on you. How do you appear? What is your appearance? How are you presenting yourself, to the world? How are you regarding yourself in terms of self-worth? What does this look like for you at this particular time? Now, old insecurities during a Venus retrograde can absolutely surface, and they come right to the table for you to deal with them, right? Particularly old wounds about your style or your body or how you've looked. So this is a great transit that I would invite you to, first of all, avoid any really drastic things. We don't want plastic surgery at this time. Any elective procedures I would not do during the Venus retrograde, which is going to go all the way until April 12th. I would not suggest this at that time. I would not suggest that during the Venus retrograde, this is the time where you're like, this is it. I'm cutting it all off. I'm cutting all this hair off, right? These bangs, I'm cutting them to here. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that, but instead it's a period of looking at why you want to make those changes. What are you trying to call into yourself by making those changes? And the other part of Venus is that Venus is a joyful energy. Are you really allowing yourself to be in relationships Aries, that first of all, reflect your self-worth. Those people are shining it back to you, and they are bringing a joy, a confidence, a lift into your life. They are giving you the courage to power forward and really be the authentic Aries that you are. Now, on another very practical level, because Venus is still Venus and Venus likes that money, this can be a wonderful time to attract a new position to you, a new opportunity, a new financial situation, and it is coming right to you. You're showing up like the best Aries you can be, and it is coming into you. And I encourage you, Aries, depending on the type of financial experience you would like to experience, set yourself up for success. If you want to change the numbers in your bank account and you want to have that happen consistently, what can you build that will allow money to flow towards you? Right? Think about this. What rooms are you in this year, Aries? Are you in rooms with people who you're learning from? They're teaching you a new skill. They're inviting you to creativity, and that's allowing your joy to flow through you. Or are you in rooms with people who are in a scarcity mindset? These will have to be some things you consider. All right, March 14th. We've got a full moon lunar eclipse that's going to be happening in Virgo, lighting up your 6th house space. So first of all, the full moon is going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. And the eclipse gives you a reset. So it is a working, active releasing of something in your 6th house zone that is about health, daily routine, including your mental health and daily routine. How do you talk to yourself? How do you regard yourself? What's the conversation going up here all day long, right? And the question here too is going to be, is the conversation that lives up here all day long, Aries, only about you, right? Because Virgo is a service-oriented energy. So as we're having this eclipse, it's going to eclipse your daily routine. So what you've been doing with your health may have a complete reset, or that plan may completely fall apart, and it's going to ask you or demand that you pivot. You need to go in a different direction in your health routine, in your mental health routine. It could also be that someone comes into your life that you end up needing to take care of or be cared for by someone under that energy. And it's about the service of sharing this particular space. Now, more than that, at a very practical level for a great many of Aries people, I think what's really just going to happen is you're going to realize that you've got a daily routine or a daily set of habits that are not actually good for you. They are unhealthy. They are just unhealthy, and they are not going to work to help you vibrate in the best way that you can here, okay? So I think that you're going to have an opportunity to release those tendencies to do that. And one of the biggest tendencies, Aries, can be to have your daily routine be Virgo perfect. It needs to be perfect. And that perfection may actually be negatively impacting your daily routine. All right, on the 29th, we've got a new moon solar eclipse, and this one is going to come back into that Aries Libra axis, and it's in Aries in your 1st house. So, okay, you've seen all this stuff that's not working for you. Now let's plant your seeds of intention here at this new moon solar eclipse to begin a new cycle around that self-image. Because remember, you didn't go cut your bangs off yet. Hopefully you didn't go cut your bangs off yet, Aries. And now you've got this opportunity to plant these seeds of intention to say, okay, I'm setting my intentions to point the boat, especially over this next 6 months, to get my appearance together, because how I look does matter, whether we want that to be true or not. How I present myself, how confidently I present myself does matter. It's a time for reinvention under this particular lunar eclipse. Now, you have done so much work throughout 23 and 24 on getting your boundaries, getting yourself, getting your Aries together, that at this point, I think we're just waiting for the Venus retrograde to finish so that you can have a new year, new me kind of moment and really come out with your fiery, beautiful chest out, willing to let us know who Aries is. Because at this point, I think you're going to really be more established in how you wish to present yourself, right? And how you wish to present your outer surroundings or your external environment. Now, the other thing that I think that this eclipse does really well is it encourages you to actually come out and not just look the part, but stand confidently in that part and to express yourself, right? To say no when you mean no, to say yes when you mean yes, to bring that self-confidence to the table. So plant your seeds of intention at this particular lunation for confident, brilliant self-expression. to not only allow yourself the permission to come out and be courageous, but to encourage other people in that way as well, which is something that Aries does really, really brilliantly. Okay, March 30th, big energy. We have got Neptune coming into the vibration of Aries. Now we're going to have a little dance here with this, but let's be excited about today to get started. We will cover this transit in its own video as well, okay? But Neptune is coming into Aries. So first of all, this is Neptune, our planet of idealism, of spirituality, of moving between the two worlds, of dissolving things that have been here. First of all, I think this is of great help to you because old identities that you have carried with yourself, first of all, may begin to dissolve as we experience this transit. You may grant forgiveness. You may release resentment. You may be enhancing yourself in terms of a spiritual practice, in terms of being in alignment with your intuition and your emotion. I think that this is also a time where your ability to genuinely be compassionate and loving with yourself is going to go through the roof. Your ability to be compassionate with yourself will also make it so that as people are bringing you information, even if you're like, listen, that's a pile of BS, you're going to be able to have compassion for what they're saying, hear it, and not have to just fire back, but instead have a different response. Now, Neptune is Neptune, okay? While we're creating this dynamic between the world's next version of you that can really live a new ideal, Neptune can create confusion. So you may find yourself as this transit is going on where you're like, now I built up all these dang barriers. And again, I can't tell what's me and what's you. I can't tell how far I'm supposed to be going in my relationship. And it may just require you to talk it out. You have to say no and try it out. Trust your intuition. I'm saying no here because I think you're crossing a boundary for me. And then you find out, oh, that's actually not a place I needed to say no. I can say yes there. So there's going to be a lot of experimental learning because Neptune can bring that confusion. The other thing it can bring is unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations, right? Explore your creativity, explore your spirituality, Aries, right? Like go down that road. But this expectation to idealize people, places, and things, including yourself, or distort your sense of self in any way, whether it's bringing it too high or it's bringing too low. This is something that you'll need to watch, but it's also the experience you need to have coming ungrounded a bit so that you realize where the ground is actually at for yourself, okay? On May 24th, we are going to see Saturn now move into Aries. And when Saturn comes around, man, first of all, Saturn stepping into Aries is the beginning of a new cycle for all of us. It is a fresh start. Saturn hasn't been here for 30 years, so this is a really big deal. Now, in your first house, this is you, again, bringing some discipline to your appearance, bringing some discipline to how you present yourself. And Saturn, as it comes in, Saturn is not a bad guy, right? When you are meeting the Saturn expectations, the maturity expectations, Saturn's going to deliver and you're going to rise to expert level. You're going to be demonstrating your expertise, demonstrating your mastery in some way. Now, if you don't quite have that together yet, Saturn being a planet of maturity can take it can challenge your confidence. It can challenge your discipline and your consistency. It's going to say, you think you're this, but you're not doing these things that would demonstrate that. And Saturn just doesn't mince any words. It's not about how you feel. It's about what are you doing, right? And in Aries, it's going to be about what are you doing? Are you setting and keeping those boundaries, right? So it's going to be these questions, but more than anything, the thing I want to celebrate, it's you stepping into a position of so much authority and responsibility. And you're not having to be like, you're not like, woe is me, I have to be responsible. You're like, no, I'm responsible. Nobody's coming to get me. I have to be responsible, and I can't do something about everything, but I can do things about me, right? And so I think it's a really delicious energy for you to work with, especially because you're going to be setting yourself up for a long-term success. This transit of you getting your discipline energy together is not about short-term success at all. Okay, June 9th, we are going to see now that Jupiter brings its transit into Cancer, lighting up your 4th house space. So Jupiter comes here every 12 years. So go back in your life 12 years ago. What was happening for you in your domestic zone? Family, roots, parents, even the home that you're living in, your emotional foundation and security, what was going on here. Because Jupiter's presence right here all the way until 2026 in your 4th house is, first of all, it's about optimism. Jupiter wants to expand what is here. But Jupiter also likes to do things like travel. So maybe you're buying a property, or maybe you're doing something with a home and people are traveling to your home, or you're traveling to their home. Whatever it is, you're wanting to strengthen your roots, put down roots somewhere, have tradition, have security. And Jupiter will expand this area. I love this transit for buying properties. If you wanted to buy or invest in some kind of nurturing space, I think that this transit will be really, really helpful for you, okay? Now, this transit could just also bring the opportunity for you to renovate things in your space, redecorate them, but it would be like slightly less than a renovation, slightly more than a redecoration, right? It could be in there, but it definitely a change to the home zone and environment. So what I want to just encourage you here to do or to think about, Aries, is that during this particular transit, which is going to take us into 2026, is if you want to expand your space, if you want to have more real estate in your portfolio, if you want to get rid of that second couch and put in a stair climber so that you have an expanded sense of security in your own home, you have what you want, you like what you have, you're motivated by where you live and it feels good to you, that's what this transit can really do for you. Now, June 15th, we are going to see that Jupiter and Saturn come into a square. And just when we get to the 19th, a couple days later, we're going to see Jupiter and Neptune come into the square. And these are two major transits that we're going to experience. So they are both going to involve your 4th house and your 1st house, okay? Now, this square is going to create tension, right? Because the square is the 911 of our aspects. It says you better do something or you're going to get squished by the square, right? So you're going to do something to get out of this particular tension. But the tension is around your own personal development and the responsibilities that you're running into with what that has to do with home, family, real estate, property, right? These two areas are in tension. So maybe you're like, yes, I want to expand my domestic life. I want to add to my rental portfolio. I want to have a different relationship with my family. Saturn's influence is like, you maybe don't have all the skills to do that yet, or it presents a challenge in some way that it's not as simple. It's not as easy. Now, I think that every square is a great opportunity to have the encouragement of optimism that you can take an action. You get to choose an action that you get to take in response to whatever situation presents itself. But it has to be very Saturnian. It has to be realistic. Set realistic goals. Set realistic expectations with people in your home or whatever these domestic things are going to be. Now, when we see Jupiter just a few days later come into that square with Neptune and we've got this tension, this is actually, I think, Jupiter square Neptune is like an enhancement to your intuition. It's squaring you, right? Like it's pushing you under the little square, but you're like, I can't just create something that's going against my intuition. I have to move with my own intuition and my own consciousness, even if it's not super apparent to everyone else, right? So you have this desire to create this idealistic vision of all this good you could do, but then you're like kind of coming up against this space where it's like, maybe your family doesn't actually want your help. They're like, yeah, no, we don't want you to move us closer to you. We like living out here, whatever it is. And they're just kind of shooting it down. However, Neptune still being in your 1st house could cause a challenge with your boundaries. So again, I want you to watch that. Really, truly, I would encourage you, don't say yes to it if you don't really mean yes. And watch the tendency to over idealize even a goal that you have for yourself this year, okay? All right, July 7th, we see Uranus heading into Gemini. Boom, boom, boom. This is another massive transit, and this is going to light up your third house space. So Uranus brings this innovation. It brings a space where you have to get off the fence, right? It's like, nope, get off the fence. Electrocution. We're doing this. We're bringing that electricity flowing into this area. So for you, speaking, having new ideas, having new people at your network, new friendships, new approaches to how you communicate, new places in which you can communicate from. You may feel inspired, Aries. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try a different learning method. I want to learn something completely new that's way over here. Maybe you're embracing technology anymore. Certainly AI. You maybe are bringing that a lot more into your daily life and into your story. It'll be a part of everyday exchanges that you are involved with. Some of you are finally gonna get that book out of you. Some of you are going to put up that website, right? Whatever it is, this Uranus and Gemini energy is going to encourage you to break down what has been stuck here and try it a completely different way. Now, Uranus can be chaotic. It can be chaotic, okay? So I'd encourage you, one, when Uranus is involved, stay flexible. You need to stay flexible, but stay curious. Stay curious and treat everything as an experiment. You know, okay, I'm just trying this out. That's a very good way to do this. And allow yourself to explore things that are unconventional, even if what's unconventional for you is the most conventional thing even in history and the world. Whatever it is, give yourself space to give it a go. All right, July 31st, now we are going to see Saturn and Neptune actually come into their own conjunction here in Aries. This is going to be in your first house. Again, this is going to be another major transit. And as these two come to conjunction there, it's a really interesting dynamic. Saturn wants to create boundaries. Neptune wants to dissolve them. So you're like, here I am trying to take discipline and responsibility of being my best self, of getting my appearance together, of putting myself out there, being confidence, right? Having this beautiful image that I'm going to project and draw things to me. And Neptune's like, yeah, well, let's dissolve that a little. But really, if you think about this and use this well, what's happening is it's this blend of discipline that meets the idealism of the self-image that you want to travel this next iteration of yourself with. And to do it, a piece of you has to be built while another piece of you dissolves away. And at the same time, there's a piece of structure that has to just be gently pulled away or burned away as well, so that you can transform into who you want to be, or more so, like, what is it? Was it the statue of David? You need to chip away at what is to really reveal what is creatively and brilliantly down here. And I think that this is also a transit that helps you bring your idealistic dreams into concrete realities. Now, when we get into September, we've got another full moon lunar eclipse. This one's going to be happening in Pisces. So again, lighting up that 12th house space, as we will see the nodes and the eclipses dance this year. So this particular eclipse is going to ask you to end, acknowledge, or to adjust. You're going to make a pivot. And this, I think, is a powerful eclipse of the year for you, because it brings out at this point some hidden aspects of yourself, hidden aspects of your subconscious, of your unconscious that become conscious, right? And it's going to encourage you to release. This is a lunation that I think that tells you over the next 6 months, you've got to forgive and release. Let go of that old fear. Confront it, see it, let it go. Past regrets, right? You're not going to be able to think about it hard enough to make it have not happened the way that it did. You're not going to be able to think about who you were in the past, Aries, enough to make that who you are today, right? Some of the days are gone. And so this is going to be an energy that I think not only asks/requires you to do that, but with the reset of the eclipse, you're seeing it in a different light. And you're like, okay, it's not true. Some version of this is a delusion. Here's the part that's true. And I can move forward more confidently because I can see this from a different perspective. On the 21st of September is going to bring the new moon solar eclipse, and this one's going to be in Virgo. So now you're planting your seeds of intention. Before, earlier in the year, you were looking at your health house going, some of this is bad. It's bad behavior. This is not working for me. Or maybe someone was coming into your life that you really needed to be of service with them. You were doing things with pet. Now, at the new moon, having cleaned out and weeded that garden with new perspective, new eyes, you're planting new seeds now that will grow over this next 6 months in your health zone. So what is that new health routine? What's the daily routine that you want in your life? What time are you getting up? What does your sleep hygiene look like? What does your rest and creativity hygiene look like in your life, in your business? If you're running your own business or you are going to work, what does your daily routine look like that makes it really, really healthy? Because this eclipse is a powerful moment for making positive changes in that daily routine that are going to not only enhance your health, but make it to where you can be productive and feel fantastic about your own productivity. Now, we cannot forget that Pluto is going to solidly be in the vibration of Aquarius as we travel 2025. We're not dipping forward and back anymore. This is it. This is where we're going. The new world has begun. For you, Aries, this is lighting up your 11th house space. This is all about, we got a sneak peek of this in 2023, Aries, that your social group, your social medias, your social spaces, your friends were starting to change, and your aspirations for your life were changing then as well. And now as Pluto really solidly makes it stay here in Aquarius, you're going to watch that your friendship groups change based on what you really desire for yourself. And that may require looking at some pain points that certain alignments and alliances are not really the best for where you want to go. And it doesn't make anybody good or bad. It simply means that you are being freed here to move in a direction with people who are like-minded as you are in the new world, as a new you that is revealing itself and traveling and making its best decisions here in 2025. All right, my beautiful Aries, I hope you have a gorgeous 2025. Like I said, take this horoscope piece by piece. But right now, I'm going to pass you over to hear about your relationship energies with Miss Rachel Lang.
Hi, everyone. It's Rachel Lang, and welcome to your astrological overview for love and relationships for Aries. And Aries, what a year you have had. Actually, all of us cardinal signs have had quite a year, quite a period of time since Pluto has been in Capricorn. Pluto moves out of Capricorn in November of 2024. So we're still in 2024 when you're watching this, then there's a lot of good news for us cardinal signs. It's like a big sigh of relief, a collective sigh of relief. And 2025 is another big year for you. So you thought you were finished. You thought there was a lot of movement, and there has been, but there is more to come. And we're going to get into what that looks like for you. There is my information if you want to follow or find me, or if you have any questions about anything that we talk about today. So here is just a cheat sheet for the big signatures of 2025. And what I forgot to put in here is that Chiron and Aries are going to be meeting up a little bit later this year too. So there is a lot of, you can see with the outer planets changing signs, there is a lot of movement, and it is electrifying change. We're moving from a period of time when we've had the outer planets in earth and water signs, and we're moving to a period of time where we have the planets, the outer planets, in fire and air signs. And this is exciting because when we have fire and air, when you put those two elements together, you have electricity. You have great big shocks to the system. You have shifts in consciousness. There's a lot of fast-moving ideas and innovation, and you are a part of that because you are an Aries. So for relationships, it's a tricky year. We have Mars retrograde. We have Venus retrograde. We've got one last eclipse on that Aries-Libra axis line, finishing that series, and that happens on March 29th. And relationships are really going through trials and tribulations, and coming out to the other side to be recommitted and to have spark new interests, spark new connections. It's like we're all moving to where we need to go. And so we're going to feel this especially in how we relate to one another. And you're going to feel this because as those planets, Neptune and Saturn, move into your sign, they put a big, huge spotlight on your self and on your first house if you're an Aries rising. So there's a lot of you focus. And so therefore, instead of thinking about this as being one of those years where you are sacrificing or compromising or finding ways to negotiate your desires and your needs in relationship, this is one of those years where there's so much energy movement for you that you really want to be prioritizing your goals, your dreams. You want to really have a clear sense of what you're saying yes to so that you know what to say no to. And we'll get into each one of these. We're going to talk about these different signatures as we move forward. But here is just an overview. We've got the eclipses on the Virgo Pisces axis line in March and in September. That axis line highlights this tension between our groundedness, our being in the world, and our mystical bent toward what is non-physical. And so there's a lot of this balancing act that you're doing between how much do you do on a daily basis for your partner, or how do you create space in your daily life for a relationship? In what ways are you sacrificing or holding yourself back? And how can you end those patterns of self-negation? And so those are some of the themes that are pronounced with that axis line. So we're going to start the year with Mars retrograde. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th. It goes direct on February 23rd. Now, your ruling planet is Mars. And so whatever Mars is doing every year, that all through the year. It changes signs every couple of months. And as Mars moves into each signs, it shapes and colors your experience and what you are moving through. And it also shows what kind of energy and vibe you have. Are you feeling flat? Are you feeling stuck? Mars tells you a lot about just your vitality, but it also tells you about your passion. And that plays out in relationships. Mars is one of those relationship planets. So let's talk about the nature of retrogrades. And this is especially for those of you who don't know much about astrology. Don't worry, those of you who are really proficient in astrology, I've got some good stuff here for you too. So everyone has something for everyone. So retrogrades, they're an optical illusion. And the planet is appearing to move backward from our perspective here on Earth. And what's cool about retrogrades is that when planets are retrograde, they're actually closer to the Earth. And so they look brighter in the sky. You can go outside and you can see that brightest planet that looks like a brilliant star. That is likely a retrograde planet. And Mars shines red when it's retrograde. And it's important to think about this as being an optical illusion, because anything that happens during a retrograde period is a little like an optical illusion too. It's like we think things are going in one direction, but once the planet goes direct, it's, oh, I totally missed the mark. We're going in this direction, or I'm going to change my mind, or things are not as they seem. And we start the year with you feeling stuck, feeling unsatisfied in your relationship, feeling like there are things about your house that just aren't working. Maybe your partner isn't putting away their dishes. Maybe your kids are leaving messes all over and you're frustrated. I say that because Mars is moving back and forth between the Leo-Cancer axis line. So at some part of the retrograde, it's going to be in Leo. At some part, it's going to be in Cancer. Those Cancer times of that retrograde cycle are ones when you're especially feeling the pressure of this in your home. So just keep the perspective of this is not the final answer. This is not this is everything comes up during retrograde cycles for us to reflect, to review, and then to make changes. And sometimes the pent-up frustration can lead to an explosion. And that explosion can be necessary for bringing about the change that's needed in some of those domestic environments or those situations in your home life that just feel tense or feel stressful. You don't have a lot of get up and go when Mars is in Cancer anyway. So give yourself permission to just ease into the new year. And if you feel unsatisfied in your relationship, if you feel stuck in your relationship or restless, then you might think about what kind of changes you can make in your home. Change anything from the color of your throw pillows or your curtains to the rearrangement of furniture. Sometimes actually making physical changes, decluttering, cleaning things out can relate to a bigger overarching change in the dynamics of your relationships. Mars retrograde isn't really a time for drastic changes. It's not a time to leave your partner. It's not. Sometimes we do feel motivated, and if there's an abusive situation, this is definitely a great time to leave the relationship or to reconsider it. But usually Mars retrograde for you is a time of taking stock and assessing what is going to work best for you on the other side. It invites reflection. It wants you to pause. It wants you to finish what you've started rather than charging ahead like that wonderful Aries you are, head first with new plans. So save your fresh starts for March 29th. That eclipse in your sign brings a lot of forward momentum. Now, Mars retrograde really sets the tone for your relationships this year. And any pent-up frustration that may build, it reaches a resolution really after those eclipses at the end of March, but then really after April 17th, when Mars is fully in Leo. The other thing, too, is that you might find yourself more focused on your career, on your personal mission. Really, this is a self-focused, self-directed kind of start to 2025. Now, let's get into the juicy stuff. So throughout the year, Saturn and Neptune weave in and out of your sign, and they are creating movements where your attention shifts between the mystical, which is Neptune, and the practical, which is Saturn, between the dreams and the rules. Neptune enters Aries on March 30th, and that's a day after the solar eclipse in your sign, and it stays there until October 22nd. This transit relates to your own, I'm going to say the words personal evolution, and I know that can be vague. So let me just tell you what Neptune's influence does, especially if you're an early Aries born on the cusp or born between 0 to 3 degrees. This is especially applicable to you. But when an outer planet enters your sign or enters any sign that's in a hard aspect with yours, you feel the ripple effect. You feel the shifting currents. And so let's talk about what I mean when I say personal evolution. Neptune is the planet that relates to the Buddhist concept of non-attachment. So Neptune is, I am not going to get fixed on anything of this world. I'm going to really engage with the spiritual aspects of myself, ground in that, and then somehow blend the spiritual and the physical. And so what can happen during those during those Neptune transits? They're not negative, they're actually really powerful, they're beautiful, they're spiritual transits. But what can happen is that the little negative self-talk, the rules that we tell ourselves we can't break, those all start to dissolve and they start to get really hazy, so that it's like, in the context of relationships, do I really believe that monogamy is the best path for me? Do I really want to stay in this marriage that has a lot of stability, but that doesn't feed my heart or my soul, that doesn't feel passionate? Is there a way I can change that to live more into my ideal? And so those Neptune transits they bring us into our hearts. And I actually hear these kinds of examples when I'm working with clients. And so I'm using them in a very specific way. Neptune can cloud our sense of judgment, and that can be a real beautiful, heart-opening experience. It can also lead us into paths where we're unclear what to do about a relationship, or when we are connected to something that is a little bit more of a fantasy and not as much as a relationship that can develop in a practical way over time. Now, Saturn's going to come through in your sign, and it's going to help to ground some of that influence. And so this is a really interesting pair up between Neptune and Saturn. They meet in your sign next year in February. And until then, they're doing this dance going back and forth between Aries and Pisces, and showing you a hint of what's going to take place next year when they're fully entering your sign. Saturn moves through Aries as well from May 24th to September 1st. And so you have a brief period of time there, really from May 24th until September 1st, when both of these planets are in your sign. And that is a power-packed period for you. And it could be a time when you are willing to take a relationship to the next level. You're willing to commit. Saturn stabilizes your dedication to something. And so when we have Saturn moving through our sign, we do feel a pressure to have things figured out, settled down. And so Saturn asks for our authenticity. It asks for our commitment. It asks for us to go through the really hard lessons of navigating what we don't want in order to get to what we do want. And so Saturn nudges you into your truth. It says, don't commit based on other people's expectations or other people's desires for you. Commit because your heart is in it and your soul is in it and you want to move forward. And that is applicable if you're in a relationship, if you're single. It can also apply to other circumstances in your life, like your career, or like the decision to have a child or to nest with your partner and get a home or something like that. Saturn really is asking you to build supportive structures for yourself and for yourself in love. Shortly after the year begins, Venus is moving in a retrograde journey, a retrograde cycle from March 1st to April 12th. So if you're paying attention, we've got both Mars and Venus, both of the relationship planets, taking their retrograde journeys right back, taking you back to the past. And you know how it is with retrogrades. And this March one is really interesting because March, you just want to mark it on your calendar. March is going to be a very wild and frenetic month for all of us in relationships, but especially for you because you're finishing that cycle with the North Node, with the eclipses in your sign. And this one ends, the eclipse is on March 29th, and that closes out that 18-month cycle where you've had these eclipses moving through Aries and your opposite sign of Libra. So Venus retrograde asks us to look at our priorities, and Venus is going retrograde, stations retrograde in your sign. So it's asking you to really reflect on your outer appearance. Do you like how you look? Do you feel sexy? Do you want to change your look? Are you trying to look like a part that you think other people want you to play? You know how it is when you first get into a relationship and you start dressing alike and you adopt different traits of the partner that you're with, or when you are in a new job, you're dressing for the job. So Venus retrograde is asking you specifically, does your outer self reflect your inner truth? And it's not always the best time to make a drastic change. It's not the time usually to get a tattoo or to change up your hair in any kind of major way because you're still reassessing. You're going back and thinking about the values, the priorities, the beauty, your vision of beauty, your sense of what is beautiful for yourself. You're going back and you're revisiting the previous versions of yourself and then making decisions for the future as a result. So it's a reconsideration of priorities. It's a reconsideration of money too, and how you're spending money, what you're spending money on. It's also, it dips into a spiritual sense of what am I called to do? And does my life reflect what the creative process that's happening within me? So Venus, this can be somewhat of a tense period of time. You can have some relationship negotiations, whether you're balancing individual needs with partnership dynamics or feeling that inner tug of war between love, relationships, and autonomy. This retrograde is going to intensify that tension. And part of that has to do with that March 13th to March 29th period. That's the 2 weeks between eclipses. And that is when this retrograde and those eclipses reach a peak. And we have a whole new phase of relationships starting when Venus conjoins the Sun on March 22nd. And that aspect is present. Venus is going back and forth between Pisces and Aries. Actually, she's moving backward through Aries to Pisces. So she hovers between the Sun in Aries and Neptune in Pisces, and the Sun's passing over that point too. So it's a really critical time for relationship decisions. One other thing too is that we don't usually feel a lot of fun when Venus is retrograde. And so you want to prioritize having a good time. You want to prioritize time away with your partner, time off, going on date nights. If you're single, you want to prioritize having fun with friends. We can feel really lonely when Venus is retrograde, and we can feel lonely in our relationships during that phase too. And because we're coming off of that Mars retrograde period, because things feel very unsettled, we want to prioritize beauty, harmony, friendship, getting together with people, social life, even if we don't feel like it. Those eclipses happen. The first one happens on March 13th. This is a lunar eclipse. This is a very emotional eclipse, and it's a time when there's a buildup of emotions that leads to realizations about relationship dynamics. And then we have a solar eclipse on March 29th. And we'll get into those in the next 2 slides, but I just wanted to also mention here that Mercury is retrograde from March 14th to April 7th. And this is Mercury is retrograde in your sign. So we have all these retrogrades in your sign, then Neptune moving into your sign. You are the star of 2025, which means that relationships might be a little bit more challenging for you when all of this light, all of these planetary luminary bodies are shining on you. And so let's look at that lunar eclipse. So this is the sign of Virgo. And this illuminates the axis line between Virgo, which is service, routine, our daily lives, the way we order our daily lives, and the healing and spirituality and compassionate awareness of Pisces. And so this brings you a heightened awareness of the imbalances in your relationships, particularly around the boring stuff of life, like who's taking care, who's picking up the children, who's cooking dinner, who's emptying the litter box. It's how you divide those responsibilities in your lives that give your life structure. It's also how, if there are any imbalances in how you give and receive love, how you maintain your sense of self. You can see all of that Aries influence. And you can also see Chiron moving close to Aries, showing the pain points that lead to major catharsis and renewal, or that build up and, if unhealed, can lead to discord in our relationships or in our mental health. So this eclipse it's very much looking at emotional labor, looking at physical labor, looking at who's taking on the spiritual needs of the relationship. Is there reciprocity? We don't want to be negating our own needs. And this is something especially for you because of all that light shining in your sign. And so you also might be aware of the personal sacrifices you've made for love. And if you're holding on to a relationship that that feels like that's really like there is no hope for it. Like it really, you've tried everything and it's time to make a decision and to let go. Really be aware of that knowing inside of your heart. And you don't have to make changes right away. We've got a lot of retrograde influence with Venus and with Mercury getting ready to station, and I think that's it. Okay, just those two. But with those personal planets being retrograde, you might want to just go into counseling or therapy or see what you can do to address those recurring issues, and especially ones around those day-to-day experiences. And then here is the one on the 29th. This is a big one for you. And you can see Mercury's retrograde, Venus is still retrograde. Venus has moved back into Pisces, and she's standing right by the North Node. So very much a part of this lunation chart. Venus and Neptune can introduce clouds of illusions, like that Joni Mitchell song. And so we can't see things really clearly. And so this is one of those transits, because there's so much of an emphasis on you. This is one of those times when it's all about personal reinvention. It's all about relationship breakthroughs. And solar eclipses in general are times when we can have big new beginnings, sometimes those unplanned new beginnings that relate to our sense of destiny. An example that one example hypothetically that comes into my mind is like a presidency, it'll probably be that too, a pregnancy that's unplanned. And though it was something that you weren't trying for or you weren't planning for, it becomes this miracle in your life that becomes an organizing principle for everything that you do from here forward. That's the kind of influence that we have with this lunation. And I'm not making a prediction if you're not trying to get pregnant. If you are trying to get pregnant or trying to start a family or adopt a pet or bring something new into your home or your life, this could be a breakthrough moment for you. And we can't judge anything good or bad, right or wrong, when we're talking about eclipses, because they are necessary for your purpose. That's why the north nodes are involved, and Venus is right there next to the north node. Neptune is right there next to the north node. This is a spiritual awakening. This eclipse encourages you to be clear of what you want in love, not to settle or compromise, whether that's establishing new boundaries, whether that is initiating important conversations. This eclipse is really about you taking action, establishing new direction. And this can be one of those lunations that invites in a romantic partner as well. If you remember the eclipse in, yes, I think it was the eclipse it was the full moon in October of 2024. This is the 6-month period from that. And we had Mars pretty close to the same degree in Cancer, but it was in a square aspect with those Libra planets. Now Mars is in a friendly trine. So we've got some resolution too for anything that was chaotic or just a little bit off in your relationships or in your goals, in anything Mars related in the last quarter of 2024. So I'm going to bring in the Pluto opposite Mars here, because this is the second one that we have with Pluto and Mars in Leo. The last one was in 2023. And so this happens in April. And I'm sorry, not 2023, 2024, February 2024. So next we have Pluto opposite Mars, and I'm bringing this in here because this is a full circle moment. The synodic cycle between these two started in February of 2024. And so this is an opposition point where there is like a culmination of energy that has been building up since 2024, February 2024. So think back about what was happening at that time for you, because you're Mars ruled. So this is going to have an extra punch for you, not a punch physically, but an extra boost of energy. This aspect can raise up the romance and passion levels. Mars is in a fellow fire sign, and so it's giving you a great big burst of energy, but it also calls for some caution. Passion can easily turn into drama, don't forget. So from April 17th to June 17th, just watch for the heightened emotions before Mars moves into Virgo and just slows down. Then Jupiter in Cancer is another influence that I wanted to bring in. Jupiter moves through Cancer from July 9th to July 29th of 2026. And it really puts a beautiful, big spotlight on your home and your family. It makes that a central focus. Wherever Jupiter is, it's magnifying and expanding the potential for what's happening in that sign. And Jupiter doesn't really judge what is going to be favorable and abundant and what is going to be hard and challenging. Jupiter says, let's blow this all up. Let's magnify it, just like you were zooming into a picture and seeing what changes needed to be made, what you can go in and edit and Photoshop. And so Jupiter shines a light on some of the more challenging aspects of your home life, including if you are outgrowing your space and maybe you are bringing in another child, or your family is growing, or you and your partner are both working from home and feeling like there's not enough space for you to do what you need to do. This is one of those times when Jupiter says, okay, it's time to think about creating space for yourself. And so you might get into a renovation project. You might think about monetizing your space, like renting a room, hosting workshops, or just creating a sanctuary for yourself and your loved ones. Jupiter shines a great big light on those opportunities. And there are small incremental changes that you'll probably be making during this transit that help you to let your home be a real nest for your love life. And so if you're single, this is one of those times when you want to do some feng shui remedies, making sure that you have two matching nightstands. I'm sorry, not book stands. It's really late, you all. Making sure that you have two matching nightstands. That is a feng shui remedy. Look it up. That there's space in your drawer or in your closet for someone to hang clothes. These are small, subtle things that you can do to tell your home, which can be very much like a living vision board. It can tell your home, hey, I'm ready to bring someone in a deeper way. Leo season is really sweet. So I picked this picture here of these two little lions. And so Leo season is actually a pretty bright spot for you. The sun moves into Leo on July 22nd. Then the Leo new moon is right on the 24th. And so this brings an element of playfulness to your relationships, an element of vibrancy. There are some challenges here. There's some tension with Venus and Gemini squaring Mars and Virgo. And so this pushes you to either grow within your relationship or to reevaluate it altogether. And then as Mars enters Libra on August 6th, this fast moving energy in your love life just slows down and lets you pause and reflect. And Mercury is also retrograde from August 4th to 28th. So this is a great time for a vacation. This is a great time to slow things down. You might see someone from your past resurface. Any old issues in your relationship can come to the forefront, offering you opportunities for healing. And Chiron goes retrograde too on July 30th. So that adds another element of personal reflection, of slowing down. And so Leo season can come with some surprises. It's not dramatic surprises. It's more, oh, wow, I forgot about that. Oh, that person from my past is reaching out to me. Oh, I don't want to talk to them. So realize that you have choice in how you engage with those circumstances. Let's look at the Mercury retrograde cycles of this year. So all the Mercury retrograde cycles are starting in fire signs. Whatever element is pronounced with Mercury retrograde, that indicates the kind of movement that we see, the kind of things that we're thinking about collectively. And so there is a lot of action represented this year. We're thinking about what to do. There's also a lot of action with just those outer planets changing signs and everyone feeling like things are a little bit in flux. And so here are those times: March 14th to April 7th, July 17th to August 11th, and November 9th to 29th. And those are just times when communication can be a little bit off, and you want to just double check that you're speaking clearly, being honest, and that there are no skeletons in the closet that need to come out, because usually those Mercury retrograde times are when those skeletons come out of the closet. Then we have the September eclipses. And the September eclipses are a little more dramatic than the March eclipses. That September 7th one is the lunar eclipse, and it brings emotional revelations in relationships. And the similar themes we're talking about: how do we balance our day-to-day chores and routines? Is there balance in our relationships? But the one on the 21st is the one that is the big one. This one, we have both the sun and moon in at 29 degrees of Virgo, opposite Neptune, opposite Saturn. And those oppositions can spell a lot of being pulled in different directions, being confused, not knowing what we want, having a lot of emotions, being exhausted, being tired. This is one of those transits that you want to just watch your health. We also have a kite aspect pattern in this lunation, and kites represent the energy of I'm going to go, I'm going to do. But there is often like something that you're having to pull away from in order to get to where you're going, to where you want to go. And if you look at how many planets or how many points are either at the first degree or the last degrees of their respective signs, you can see that there's a lot of letting go. There's a lot of we don't quite know where we're going. We don't quite know if we're in the future or we're in the past. And so this is one of those times when that tension could reach a breaking point. And Virgo is very discerning, but it doesn't have its discernment powers during this lunation. So for you, this is happening in areas of your chart that relate specifically to your own sense of self, that relate to your health and your physical body. And so this is one of those transits, one of those lunations where you've got to think about boundaries. Now, Uranus is in Gemini off and on throughout this year, and it fully enters next year, April 25th, 2026. Uranus started moving into Taurus in 2018, and it allowed you to really think about your finances, about your values, your priorities. There might have been financial ups and downs while Uranus was there. You might have felt unstable about jobs or about income, or maybe you won or lost money in games or in the markets. Now that starts to balance out as Uranus moves into Gemini, but it's still not quite finished in your second house. So it leaves a punctuation mark on those challenges and opportunities that happened for you. Uranus in Gemini lights up your communication, and this really gives you the ability to focus on relationships with community members, how you and your partner build community, especially that local community. And so this is really beneficial for new, innovative ways of communicating with your partner. And then I love the grand trine, the water trine on November 17th. There are opportunities to deepen commitments as Saturn will be out of your sign in November, but November gives you the opportunity to really assess what commitments you have. The water element highlights your emotions. It highlights the desires that you have for stability and commitment. And also Mars ends the year in Capricorn, which is a sign that is very favorable for Mars, for your ruling planet. It's exalted. in Capricorn. And so Capricorn season helps you to ground and stabilize the energy of change and flux that is happening with all of those outer planets. And so with that said, I'm going to show you a little mood board here for your year. And you see the fire right there. There's a lot of Aries energy. There's a lot of those outer planets are moving into Aries. We've got fire and air really prominent. We've got the picture up to the right, which is all about self-love and doing things for yourself that you would ordinarily do for a partner, wooing yourself, and taking time to relish the beauty in your life. Then we've got the warrior down at the very bottom, but it's not that feisty fighter warrior who's carrying a weapon. It's being in the pose of a warrior and being graceful in it. So this isn't a year where you're doing a whole lot of fighting. This is a year where you're accessing a type of power that is sourced from within, and that gives you a sense of direction, a sense of being able to call your own shots in your life. Then we've got that little lion. So there's like some feisty energy, but with Mars retrograde and Mars moving through Libra for part of the time, you don't get to do a whole lot of expressing that feisty energy or your anger. And so there's the sense of just give yourself permission to not have to fight the good fight, or to take a step back when there is a conflict, knowing that sometimes with Mars retrograde, you fight in circles and you don't actually get what you want in terms of being understood and heard. That's primarily at the beginning of the year. And then that picture at the top left is all about just introspection. You saw all the retrogrades this year, those personal planet retrogrades, and shifting currents in terms of where we're going. So it's not a time to really act on a lot of impulse. It's a time to take risks and take opportunities as they present themselves, but it's also a time of really going in deep and centering yourself to access that sense of desire that's coming from the core of you. So that is your astrological overview for 2025. And I look forward to hearing what manifests in your love life and seeing your comments in the video. And if you have any questions, you know how to reach out to me. All right, everyone, have a great year.
So Aries, you guys are going to feel the North Node moving into your 12th house in the whole sign of Pisces. This is going to represent your subconscious, some secrets, a place of rest, hidden wealth, isolation, going far away places, and the 12th is also known as a place of self-undoing as well. What does that mean on a financial impact? Well, this could look like some real estate investment for some of you. So this can bring opportunities related to hidden or undiscovered assets for some of you, possibly family properties or unexpected inheritances in some cases. You might be inclined to sell a property or to reinvest in something like a spiritual retreat, putting money in property that's in a faraway place or a different country from where you live, okay? Or some eco-friendly properties, things that are friendly towards nature or the environment. There's also an element of social responsibility here. So any investments into green or sustainability assets that might align with your values could be supported, but there's some caution here to be wary of any deceptive offers, because that can be some of the elements that we need to be careful of with Pisces, right? That can blur financial clarity. So Pisces, especially if well placed, if you have Jupiter in a good placement, can talk about using your hunches or intuition to make good business decisions, so long as the Pisces house is in good shape. And this is a general reading, so just keep that in mind. If you've noticed in your financial history you've been deceived before, you might want to take heed as you're listening to this now. Okay, so research thoroughly before signing any contracts with that placement. Then you're going to have Neptune joining this North Node in your 12th house around February 7th. The financial impact of this can be a blend of both idealism and confusion. So there's going to be a strong focus on long-term emotional or spiritual investments as these two energies combine. So the potential for investing abroad increases here for you, Aries. And that again speaks to retreats, wellness-related adventures, an Airbnb in a different country, a hotel or a vacation-like experience, yoga retreat, that type of thing. or just planning an experience for some spiritual time away, like a Vipassana, 10 days, 14 days away, an ashram kind of a visit type of thing. Maybe you're going to go do mushrooms for 2 weeks in the mountains or something like that. Neptune can encourage eco-friendly real estate adventures like that, but it could also blend confusion, especially if you're dealing with, let's say, language barriers or culture barriers from getting property in a different culture or country. These are things I actually talk about with some clients, but long-term planning is key here. We just need to be careful because with Neptune, it can bring some fog or confusion. The way this alignment is looking, though, is that if you have patience, and it's a holistic, spiritual, compassionate, Neptunian type of endeavor involving film or caring or compassion or taking care of others or some creativity, as long as you're patient about it and you're detailed about the planning, you can likely succeed with this endeavor. All right. Now we have the 24th of February, where Mars finally starts to move direct in the 4th house of Cancer for you. 4th house, again, is also real estate. Family, home, assets, the mother, the womb, the bedroom, the private places, things that we don't necessarily expose to the public, our foundations, that's all the 4th house. The financial impact of this for you, Aries, is yet again real estate, but also shared resources, right? With people you live with, people whom you consider to be your current foundation. So this could be marriage partner if you're married and have a spouse, or if you still live with your family and parents, whoever you consider or deem to be family who lives with you in the home, any resources you share with them, this can include them also. Mars wants to energize family-related investments here. So long as things are good in terms of family situations, like you've got a good second house, or if there's anything related to the second house, placed in the 5th, 8th, or the 11th, and these things look good, then working with family can potentially benefit you here as it relates to real estate purchases or refinancing, especially if you bought a home in the past a year or two while rates were high. There's been a recent rate cut, so a refi could be a very useful idea for some of you guys in early 2025. You could renegotiate better mortgage terms in that situation. Some of you guys can improve insurance-related situations, which again could be refinance or just better insurance terms, whether it's whole life insurance policies or infinite banking or whatever your situation might be in terms of large amounts of money tied to other people beyond yourselves, like markets or big pools of money. That's the 8th house component there. You might need to address any family insurance policies, that could be a thing, or any health or property insurance or any inheritance matters there as well, might need to be cleared up. Okay. Now, Mars is spending 6 months in the sign of Cancer since the end of 2024. So this could have caused you to have to move or change your home or travel away from home. Anything like that comes up in your life, Aries, is an opportunity to make more money, is supported with Mars and Cancer. I would encourage you to pursue those things if you haven't already towards the end of 2024. It's a good way to start the year. Okay, if there's any disagreements or arguments or conflicts at home, this might inspire you to leave the home anyway. This could give you work, jobs, or positions overseas, temporary contracts to do work away from the homeland. Okay, so this could be beneficial and lucrative as well. One of the things that could be very useful to think about is, did I have any financial lucrative opportunities that came up for me around April of 2006 or around June or so of 1987, if you were alive around that time? These are similar energies to when Mars was in Cancer at those points in your life, if you were around for those experiences. So if you had work opportunities that went well in terms of leaving the house, then Mars in Cancer can repeat that as well. Okay. And then to add to that, you guys also have been experiencing the year now with Pluto in Aquarius, full term, full circle. Okay, so it's spent so much time since 2008 in the sign of Capricorn, really transforming your career and your purpose. How can you be more wealthy? How can you be more powerful and dominant in what you do? Okay, there was a visit there in September of 2024, right, to help clarify any assumptions that you've made about your career and the lessons that you've learned while Pluto has spent so much time in Capricorn. Okay, so what it wants to do is continue to take the connections that it's made in the 11th house and bring you powerful benefactors and friends there. Okay, so this will help flow positively towards you in the physical body. So actually getting yourself and your initiative involved in the endeavors as it relates to your careers by your long-term friends, your goals, and building that together, knowing what your vision is, knowing what you care about, and working with people who share that same alignment over the next 20 years, Aries, and having that be a part of your communication and your online presence is going to be key for your career. So get crystal clear, Aries. What are my values? What do I care about? Who's like-minded? And how can I work with them or collaborate with them? Are there social networking events or groups that I can attend where those people are there? Whether that's platforms, physical, online, or otherwise, get yourself out there and get connected so that can help you from a Plutonian power-based perspective with your career. All right. So then, March 14th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in your 6th house in the sign of Virgo. That's going to talk about work and health routines. Financial impact to that is going to bring transformations in your work environment and your daily routines. So the way you've been approaching your 24-hour chunks and your day-to-day is going to shift as of March of 2025. And this is going to give you an opportunity to step in a more structured or more leadership role, industries like healthcare, analytics, administration, tax, bookkeeping, keeping documents together, kind of zooming in on the details and keeping track of things for many of you. And this will help impact your long-term financial security. So if you're looking for work around March and such a job opportunity comes up, I would grab it because it could be very useful for you. Also for hiring such people to bring them into your organization if you're looking for that. So from an investment perspective, things like biotechnology, if you're into biotech, healthcare, wellness related sectors, these are things you want to be looking at. Any technologies that zoom in deep in the body, particularly the intestines, at the microscopic level to see any markers of wellness, things like that. Those are the types of investments, companies, sectors, and ideas that would do, or even job opportunities that would do well for you guys during this time. Then we have Saturn entering your 1st house in Aries. This is going to be a big deal. This is going to cool off the body a little bit, make it a little bit rigid, a little bit stiffer than it was when Saturn was in the 12th. So you might want to spend a little more time in the sun, Aries, drink a little bit more lemon water, things like that. The 1st house is going to reflect the self and your personal drive and how you go after things. So the long-term strategy from the financial impact is, are we being financially disciplined? And are we being personally responsible with our money? Particularly as that relates to the physical care of the body as well. So anything that requires education, savings, children's funds, creative business ventures, being patient, these are the keywords while Saturn is spending 2.5 years in the sign of Aries from 2025 to 2027. So we're going to need to be more cautious in our investments, okay, Aries? And this is of May of 2025. So if you're into stocks, you're into crypto, you might have noticed that if your portfolio was up in the beginning of the year, that things were in a little bit of a different situation by May. We don't want to be impulsive with our financial decisions anymore at this point, Aries. We want to be level-headed and disciplined and more Capricornian with the more tried and true approach at this point of the year. Okay, book a session with me if you want to look at your particular individual chart and we want to get into the weeds about your portfolio, how that relates to the market. But just in general, Aries, this is going to be a time where your financial approach and just your approach to life in general has to become more disciplined and more responsible. And in June, we're going to have Jupiter enter Cancer in the 4th house. So a lot of 4th house activity for our Aries, okay? Real estate, family, joint resources. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So those things are going to be expanded by the great benefic Jupiter. So shared resources, real estate. You might experience growth in property investments, particularly family homes or inheriting properties or any real estate investments, particularly rental properties will continue to do well at this time. So one of the interesting things that I've seen from my perspective is a rotation from money, if you are into markets in Q1, maybe a little bit in Q2 of next year, Aries, from things like crypto or stocks into things like real estate in the second half of 2025, when the real estate market might be more affordable. Not financial advice, but this is lining up very nicely with what I've seen for Aries. Then we have Uranus moving into Gemini in the 3rd house in July. The third house represents communication, trade, and technology, and Uranus is the planet of revolution, change, disruption, and innovation, and bringing new things to the surface that can be quite a little bit unsettling or uncomfortable for the status quo. So, tech investments from the financial side, new partnerships in technology. Are we hearing about mergers, new technology, the new Neuralink, new AI based, technologically based disruptive technologies? Are we hearing those come through? Right? Nvidia, Zoom, Netflix, Microsoft, how are these companies doing in the market around this time? If they've fallen since the second quarter, are they starting to pick up in price? This could be an interesting thing to see throughout 2025. So Uranus's influence can bring unexpected financial opportunities in fintech, AI, or the blockchain sectors, things to look out for. Now, trade agreements is going to be an interesting thing if you run a business that is involved with that or you're in the government sector. Legal affairs, especially in business contracts, could go under some volatility with this energy. Some unexpected shifts in partnerships, trade agreements could be a factor. This could even be seen on a global world scale, as Gemini is the United States seventh house. So we might see things like trade agreements or tariffs or sanctions shifting as global tensions are likely to get more complicated. Now we have the September full moon eclipse in Pisces. The impact of that is going to be uncovering hidden or spiritual wealth, such as family assets or overlooked investment opportunities. It's going to be a good time to address any emotional attachments to any resources and decide if they align with your financial goals. So any property or assets you inherited or any emotional connections, these could be potentially sold or reinvested into longer term financially stable ventures for you guys, depending on your charts. Then we have the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, which again is your sixth house. So we're seeing a lot of the same houses lighting up for you guys throughout the year, Aries. So there's a bit of consistency between the sixth, the fourth, and the third, okay? So these houses are lighting up, and this is again going to talk about daily work, health, and the employment sector. So the financial impact here again is this is going to be a perfect time for any career-related new beginnings. So starting a new job, very likely for a lot of you Aries. And this is going to be a project that can improve your long-term financial outlook, especially if you're of service, helping people out, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and paying fine attention to the work that you're type of doing. Any employment-related investments, such as, Upwork or like these any work-related travel, or anything related to the element of being of service to people in your work, that can definitely pay off in the future, particularly if there's any green energy projects with Neptune, and then creative ventures with Venus and Aries. These things are going to be very supportive to your investments and the work that you do. And then inheritance planning with Jupiter looks very good as well. So any shared finances or inheritances, blending money together, these transits really encourage Aries to focus on financial discipline, long-term investments, and strategic partnerships. These are the three keys for your financial success in 2025. The thing you're going to want to avoid, Aries, is impulsive moves in highly speculative markets, especially when Saturn enters your first house. After that, you want to be very kind of lean and strict and consciously minded about what's actually going to make money, what's tried and true, especially things like real estate, as the rest of the year plays out through creative ventures and as well innovative tech partnerships. So with that, check out my yearly report if you are looking for things like ETFs or stocks to invest in. If you want me to dive into your particular chart's energy and see what works best for your chart financially, reach out to me. If not, you have enough here to kind of plan out the financial trajectory of 2025. And with that, be well. One love to you, Aries, and peace.
Hi, everybody. Kira Sutherland here, and I have the great pleasure of doing health astrology for the year. So thank you very much for having me. And we're going to start it off with Aries and just some tips and tidbits of some of the transits and energetics happening this year and how, as an Aries, that might be affecting you. So for those of you who don't know, we kind of work our way down the zodiac. So Aries actually starts with the head. So everything within the head There are crossover rulerships, but yeah, everything in the head for Aries. So our brain, our nervous system gets pushed really hard, even though we don't rule that. The adrenal glands are ruled by Aries, which are glands that produce our stress hormones. So Aries this is the go, 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 fire, cardinal energy. And, we are very good at taxing our systems. So I really wanted to put it out there for Aries this year. There are quite a few planets heading towards Aries as well. We have both Saturn and Neptune sojourning into Aries. They will retreat for a little bit into Pisces and then come fully in by 2026. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. The two other things I wanted to bring up first are the retrogrades that are going to happen that are important to have a look at. So, there's 3 retrogrades of Mercury this year, as we have every year, but the most important one for Aries is the first one happening this year, which is March 15th or thereabouts, depending on where you live in the world, until April 25th. And that's actually happening in Aries, and then it's retrograding back to Pisces. So you're going to start the year with everybody starts the year quite intensely. But I want to ask the Aries this year to maybe think about starting slower, being more gentle as we enter this year. And then when we hit March and this Mercury retrograde happens, Mercury is actually in charge of the nervous system. Also in charge of has part rulership of the lungs, so breathing, but especially nervous system and also just communication systems in the body. So when the first retrograde happens, I think it's a really great time for Aries to kind of sit back, take stock of where you've been pushing hard, maybe not push as hard, but really have that overview look of how you've been dealing with your physical health, because Aries is very embodied. So look at how hard you're pushing your adrenals, how hard you're pushing your nervous system, and be cautious and kind of take this retrograde to really nourish and almost like another reset, like we often do at the first of the year. And yeah, just building into or during your birthday season, being more gentle with yourself, because it is retrograding back into Pisces, and Pisces rules the immune system. And if you don't know, often the month before our birthday or before our solar return can be considered quite a weak time for our physical body. So having that happen at the same time as we're coming into a retrograde, I just want Aries to kind of cotton wool themselves a little bit and nourish rather than push hard. Once that first retrograde finishes, midway through April, better time to really push forward. We also have a Mars retrograde happening starting on the 1st of January. So again, this is like starting with the brakes on for the beginning of the year. And I don't actually mind asking people to not do this whole, oh, it's the new year, I'm going to do everything different. This is a year to start slow. It's going to be retrograde all the way till the 14th of Feb. And Mars, being the ruling planet of Aries, again, nourish the adrenals, find some great outlets for your Mars. I often think of Mars as sport and doing things, and find some great ways to nourish yourself that aren't too taxing. Walking rather than always running, doing some yoga rather than HIIT classes. You can still do whatever exercise you want, but not over pushing it. I feel like the beginning of this year is asking Aries to not start at full speed and just be a slow build for the rest of the year. Okay, so those are my 2 big ones. The other one, Saturn, is heading towards Aries. And I actually like this for you. Saturn is form and structure. In medical astrology, pardon me, in medical astrology, Saturn rules the bone, the skin, the skeleton, things that hold us up, things that hold us in. And, with Mars going into Aries, it's a time to create great boundaries about our physical body and how we want it to be running and taking care of ourselves. So again, This is starting with the brakes on, although Saturn doesn't actually move into Aries until partway through May. So again, we've had that slower start to the year, then Saturn comes in and it's like, oh, let's find that structure and form for how I'm going to pace myself and nourish those adrenals. Maybe look at some adaptogen herbs if you want. Again, if you're on any medication, please cross-check things. Not have as much caffeine, and just enjoy the fact that when Saturn goes into Aries, it's like we can manifest things better in some ways into tangible form. It's been an etheric Pisces, so we've been intuiting and thinking and dreaming about what we want to create. And then when Saturn goes into Aries, it's like, let's put it into the structure, but let's do it a little bit slower paced than we're used to really make sure those foundations are beautiful. And I actually find a lot of Aries find Saturn going in there really helps them focus and narrow down what they're doing and really get to work. And so I'm kind of excited for that. If you're not an Aries rising, Aries rising, this is going to be actually in the first house for you. So your actual physical body. Whereas for an Aries sun, I want you to look at what house Aries is actually ruling and how can I ground that Saturn for better creation of what you're kind of trying to manifest this year around your physical body. Yeah, so this is a not pushing it, especially the first 6 months of the year, and really vision board while it's still in Pisces, but really lock in what you want to be doing. And when Saturn moves into Aries, we also have better structure. We have better control over cravings or what the things we're doing with our body. We're actually kind of able to lock in those structures we want to be doing. So I hope that's making sense for you all. And those are the really big things I wanted to draw your attention to this year. Yes, there's lots of other transits. It's also going to depend everywhere in your chart. But I really want you to use those retrogrades, be it Mercury or Mars, to stop and reset, both with that nervous system and the adrenals for you. Look at what house that's happening for you, and then kind of plan. And then when we have Saturn moving in, that's where we bring that vision into form. When Saturn then comes back out into Pisces in a retrograde, which happens in September, it's like we get to then do a bigger picture again of what we've been doing with ourselves and our physical body. Look at it again from that Pisces dream, vision board state, take restock. And then at the beginning of 2026, when Saturn goes back into Aries, lock it back in again. So it's this beautiful adjustment year that I actually think you will find pretty fabulous. Okay, I hope you have a fabulous year and talk to you soon.
Hey Aries, and welcome to your 2025 Spiritual Development Forecast. My name is Tiffany Harelik, and I'm so excited to show you what the year has in store for you. Before we get started, if you want to drop into the description and grab your 2025 Spiritual Development Horoscope, it's a PDF, and you can follow along through the presentation, and then also you'll have it for your sign throughout the year. So let's get started. That 2025 is a 9 in the numerology. I like to overlay the numerology with the astrology when we're looking at the spiritual themes of the year. And numerology breaks the years into 9-year cycles. And so 2025 is a 9. So we are finishing a big 9-year cycle. So it's a year of culmination. It's a year of integration. It's a year of closure and endings, but also finding pathways of beginnings within endings, right? So a lot of times in the modern culture, it's like something ends, something begins. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. So over the course of 2025, realize that it's a year of big transition, and we're going to see that in the astrology too. So hopefully you've got your sheet downloaded, and we can jump into the forecast here. Okay. Let's see. So one other quick gift for you, if you want to use the code Stormie 2025 to grab the digital astrology calendar. This calendar shows you the planetary transits, of course, the lunations, the ingresses, the retrogrades, the eclipses. It incorporates fixed star nuances and then void of course nuances. And so this goes in any calendar system that you use, and it travels through you with any time zone. And if you use the code Stormie 2025, you'll get $10 off. And then also just stay tuned because we have other coupons and goodies for you, things like this beautiful astrology journal. Okay, so today, Aries, we're going to look at what are the planets in spiritual development, the quarterly breakdown, and then your major theme for 2025. So the planets, right, in terms of spiritual development, we're looking at this lens for our own evolution, our soul's healing, our growth, our spiritual mission here on Earth. And so, we have Mercury we're looking at in terms of our mindset, the way that we think about things. It really puts a whole flavor on it all, right? Like you could look at it this way and have a certain attitude, and then look at it this way and everything changes. So Mercury is huge in terms of your own spiritual development. It also represents our nervous system, and our nervous system helps us, know when we are in fight, flight, fright, or freeze, and how we make decisions, the quality of our decisions when our nervous system health is doing well, right? So then Venus shows us not only how we love and our love language, but how we spend and receive energy, how we exchange that love. Mars shows us more about our spiritual mission, Jupiter, our faith, Saturn, our discipline, our devotion, Uranus, our spiritual network, that group of people that keeps us accountable, that helps us grow forward-thinking friends. And then Neptune shows us what needs to dissolve, what we need to blend, what we need to let go of, right, with peace. Pluto shows us that subconscious gold, that buried treasure. And then Chiron, of course, the master healer. Lastly, the moon shows us about our intuition. I have a great product for you called 40 Days of Spirit. If you're looking to develop your psychic abilities, it's an email product. It goes out one every day. But if you're looking at your birth chart and you're trying to find your special psychic abilities, the moon is a great place to start, right? The moon shows us how you receive information. So do you receive your intuitive hits? Are you talking with spirit? Are you communing with spirit through, your five physical senses that extend out into the metaphysical world? The moon shows you your special way of doing that. And then the nodes, right, represent our spiritual growth and evolution. The north node, what we're reaching for, the south node, what we are eliminating. And the nodes change signs in January this year. So the whole flavor starts out fresh and different right in January. What's staying the same, Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. What's changing is we have 4 outer planets that are changing signs, right? Especially like spring and summer are going to be a big shift. And so we're going to see that in the forecast here. So Aries, for your first quarter, right, I have this song, Lose Yourself. This is because you'll see that Neptune and Aries, Neptune and Saturn are going into your sign, right? And so this can be a year, a 9-year of integration, culmination, completion, where you are harvesting fruits from the last 9 years of your life. There's that Saturn represents that karmic boomerang. So what's coming around full circle for you? I love this line here. You only get one shot. Don't miss your chance, right? And so that it's not a sense of pressure, but it's a sense of this is your precious human life, and what are you going to do with it? And you can start over this day, right? You can start over this hour and set a new spiritual intention. All right, I mentioned that the nodes were shifting from Aries, Libra into Virgo, Pisces, right? And so as we think about that, the North Node is the head of the dragon. It's what we're eating, what we are digesting, what we're reaching for, and what we need to embrace. And it's in the sign of Pisces now, or it will be in January, depending on when you're listening. So what we need to embrace are the good sides of Pisces, okay? So compassion, creativity, intuition, of course, forgiveness, right? Pisces represents spirituality in a big way. So it's going to be, that is a huge, huge theme for 2025 and beyond. And then the tail of the dragon, what we are letting go of, what we are eliminating, what we don't need anymore, are the challenging sides, of course, of Virgo: perfectionism, overworking, being overly analytical, being overly critical with ourselves and others, controlling things. There's an Anne Lamott quote that says, "Help is just the sunny side of control." And yeah, that's true. So are you controlling or helping? Did anybody ask for your help, right? And then fade, right? Fade in my lineage means fixing, arguing, defending, and explaining. So those are things we need to let go of. If you find yourself caught in a cycle of trying to fix, argue, defend, explain, justify, there's a power issue, right? There's a control issue there. And so we're not accepting something when we're trying to go through those fade muscles. And so that's just for your awareness. For you specifically, Aries, with the nodes changing signs, you're getting some relief because the South Node is getting out of your sign, right? And the South Node, the North Node is getting out of your sign and it's moving right backwards into Pisces. And so it's less about, right, this me, what do I want? What do I need? What are my goals and my dreams? And it kind of evolves and fades and dissolves that Aries sense of self-importance. Okay, you are important, you're chosen, you're here for a reason, you have a mission, but it's kind of shifting into that Virgo Pisces continuum of needing to focus more on service to others. Now, with the North Node in Pisces, right, you're going to be embracing your spiritual side, you're letting go of control, right, Virgo stuff, and you're focusing more on your own inner healing, your inner child healing. So a really huge defining moment of the year is that Saturn and Neptune are getting closer and closer together. So there's going to be a moment in early February where spirituality becomes really serious business. Okay, this is a cycle that we are going to be tracking for the next couple of years. So we're starting to feel the flavor of it here in February, early 2025. And Saturn, Neptune, right? This is a huge contrast. There's a duality between reality, Saturn, and Neptune, fantasy. There's a duality to experience between being stagnant and being in flow. Saturn is the edges of the river and Neptune is the river itself. You need both, right? And so this is in Pisces. It's going to go on to become conjunct in Aries. And so this is just a moment to start blending structure with that spiritual side of things. And so what does that look like? Like your own spiritual discipline. Some of us were born with a need for fixed patterns, do the same thing, routine every day. Some of us were not born with the need for fixed patterns. And so if you are that person and you are forcing yourself into fixed patterns, that's going to be uncomfortable. So you might be the kind of person that needs to do the same thing every morning, get up, meditate, do your prayers, have your water, hydrate, bless other people, set your intention, whatever your morning routine looks like every single day. And then for the other group of people that does not need those fixed patterns, you might have a couple of different things that you need to do in the morning and it looks different every morning. Maybe you have your physical health as part of your routine, right? And so maybe you're walking one morning, maybe you're doing yoga one morning, and you're able to change it up. Either way, it's a discipline, right? To commit to your own physical, mental wellness, right? So this is an exciting, I guess, feature of the year. And as we start out the year, Mars will be retrograde. Mars is retrograde, and it will go direct here in the first quarter. Mars is currently, as we start the year, retrograde in Cancer, right? And so it was retrograde in Leo. It fell back into Cancer. Mars is in detriment in Cancer. It's very uncomfortable there. It can come out as passive aggressive behaviors, not understanding where these emotions and passions are coming from, and then it can spill out sideways onto other people. So just a reminder, don't fix, argue, defend, explain. Try to just embrace what is, accept what is, surrender into reality, right? So we'll see people with mood swings, internal conflict going on, and we are called to love people, right, in my lineage, right? So they can have those mood swings without it getting all over you. You don't have to put yourself in a situation that's a constant mood swing environment, but you can still love people from a distance if you need, or you can help your friend course correct and say, gosh, let's get to the bottom of this. I see this is really disturbing you. But you want to be with people that are looking for solution, that aren't just chewing on their problems constantly without a solution. So when people aren't willing to do something to make that change, then you're not getting anywhere and you're wasting your precious human life force energy, right? So we want to be working with people that desire a solution, that are ready for change. Mars retrograde, focus your fire this first quarter of the year. This retrograde cycle is going to affect your home and family, Aries. For you specifically, Aries, are you renegotiating a space in your home? Are you rebuilding some kind of relationships within your home? How are you overcoming some tension with certain family members? Can you do it with grace without these big, huge, fiery sparks and flashes, right? It doesn't have to be all feisty all the time. Can you nurture yourself through the changing dynamics at home or any moves that your family might be making? Realize that people are working with their coping mechanisms. Their emotional security feels attacked in some level, right? And so to have the awareness of that and to be sensitive to it is to walk with grace through this time. Venus and then Mercury will also retrograde this quarter. So it's an interesting quarter, an interesting first quarter of 2025. When Venus is retrograde, it acts like a mini Mars in the sky. So now Mars is direct and Venus is acting like Mars. So you can expect some energy here in March. What to do with Venus retrograde, right? We want to all of the things, reconnect, recharge the batteries of our heart, resolve some issues with love and money, review our finances, review our stewardship, making heart-to-heart connections, hugging for 30 seconds, right? Calibrating the muscles of your heart, resolving things. What not to do, right, with Venus retrograde, and it's in your sign, right, is to change the way that you look, because a lot of people make decisions that they later regret or purchases that they have buyer's remorse for. So no big changes in terms of your appearance, your haircut, your outfits, the way that you're presenting yourself. And of course, always, we don't want to be gossiping, but especially now during this time, because things can tend to really flare up. So there's fade again. So Aries, for you, as Venus retrogrades in Pisces and Aries, right? Unconditional love is a huge theme. So this first quarter has amazing opportunities for your own spiritual evolution. And this will come in the form of choices that you make every morning. It will come in the form of people and circumstances that are presented to you. And that is the yoga, right? Keeping your cool with all of the circumstances, people, decisions that are coming to you through your life. So this is not a great time for impulsive decisions. This is a great time to be like, aha, something is triggering me. This is a clue. I need to go back into my timeline and rework my Mercury, my mindset. So as Mercury goes retrograde, again, also in Aries and Pisces, so Mercury and Venus are traveling very closely together this time of year. I mentioned that Mercury rules our nervous system. And so if you are making decisions out of fight, flight, or fright, or freeze, right? The quality of your decisions are not going to be something that you're super proud of. And so 100% of the time when Tiffany makes decisions by herself without checking in with my higher power, I have a disappointment. I could have done something better. I don't like the quality of it. And so this is a good time to remember to co-create, to make your decisions with your higher power, with spirit, right? Incorporating spirit in, because if not, am I playing God? Am I thinking that I'm in control of everything? If so, I'm not surrendered to that spiritual thing that's wanting to happen through me, right? So Aries, for you personally, as this goes through your sign, your self-image, I know I just said don't change the way you look, but it's really more the way that you're presenting yourself to the world, right? You're refining this, reassessing your personal goals, and this is a big time for growth for you. Some of you will have Mercury retrograde in your natal charts. So at the time you were born, Mercury was retrograde. I do, and I find it's a great time to reassess, make edits. Organize, I find it's a really good time to organize. And so if you've let your Google Drive folder get messy, this is a good time to just go be practical and fix and put stuff in folders and color coordinate the astrology books in your library and, all of those type of things. So maybe you're going through a rebrand or editing something with the way that you are shining. Now, the first quarter, we have 2 eclipses. I'm sure this is on your radar here. So we've got 2 eclipses in March and 2 in September. This first one falls in Virgo. So because the nodes changed signs, we're going to see that reflected in eclipse season. With Virgo, right, there's going to be power outages or power surges in Virgo themes. So people are going to have too much work or not enough work at all. So this is a huge reality check for your health and your routine. So what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? This is 6th house language, right? What you do on a day-to-day basis creates your health. So your mental health, your physical health, all of the above. And so this is a good time to reset and get a reality check with yourself. Like, I think I eat so healthy. And then I tell somebody what I'm eating, and I'm like, maybe there's some room for adjustment there, right? So these are the things. The eclipses show us what isn't working well. So if something is built on a shaky foundation, it's likely to dissipate, break, and show you, hey, this is not reality. We need to fix this and we need to go in a new direction. For you, especially, right, if you Aries have been neglecting yourself or just putting off self-care or trying to get through your routine quickly, like this is your wake-up call. Now, each of the moon, the eclipses are part of a larger moon family cycle. This is part of a cycle that started back in September of 2023. And so you might scroll through your calendar, your journal, and say like, hey, what was I doing around that time? What was cooking? You might notice some themes that occur on these dates. So right now, this here, March 14th one, we're getting more information, right, under the light of that full moon eclipse about what was happening in early September of 2023. And this will culminate in December of 2025, later this year. The second eclipse is in your sign. When we have eclipses in our own sign, right, it can feel more exacerbated. It can feel like we're living 100 hours and 24 hours. The Aries eclipses tend to have speedy effects. So things come on quickly and then dissipate quickly. You want to watch for fire hazards, of course, because Aries, fire sign. You want to not only fire hazards in the physical world, but also in the emotional world, right? So if there's some heated moments, can we have some space for grace? Can you let people know like, hey, let's take a moment, count to 10, breathe, come back to it, or come back to it tomorrow or whatever. Just a reminder that your eclipse moment can be felt and experienced up to 90 days in advance. So don't have a freak out about these particular exact dates. In my life, it usually does happen around the date. That's just been my personal experience, but I have clients that have their eclipse moments well before. So studying your chart and studying the patterns can be really useful. So this is in your sign. It is your cosmic reset button. This is your precious human life. How can you lose yourself, right? Die to the self and be reborn in your spiritual purpose? This is kind of that like baptism, cosmic eclipse moment for you, a new experience with your life direction. And this kicks off a new 2.5-year cycle, right? And then it will culminate in June of 2027, which is a really interesting year, right? Lastly, Neptune is going to move into your sign, and it's going to be there through 2039. So Neptune spends a long time, 12 to 14 years in your in each sign, and it will be in your sign through these dates. So it's kind of dancing into Aries right now. Because of the retrograde cycle, it'll dance in and out, but it will be in your sign through 2039, right? So Neptune dissolves, it blends, it spiritualizes. It's the great yoga teacher in the sky. It represents the ocean. It represents meditation in the mystical world. Aries, you know this energy well. You know your own Aries energy, which is very pioneering, very trailblazing, very first to the scene. Very much that new beginning, feisty, peppery, cayenne energy, right? So with Neptune and Aries, it is that energy of dissolving the self, dissolving the ego. It's spiritualizing the self and stepping into a new role, stepping into your soul work at a different level than ever before. Really, it's a really actually very potent, powerful time. I want to acknowledge my friend Celeste Brooks, because we were talking about Neptune and Aries and the different themes, and it just came out of her mouth like fate and free will as we were just brainstorming through it. And that is such a great thing for you to focus on, Aries. This idea of fate, Neptune, what's planned for us, and then Aries, right? Like this free will, this fire in us that has the choice to go off path or on path. So with Neptune in your sign, I want you to get ready for a period of profound personal awakening. You are really getting deeper and deeper into the whys of your own life, the mysteries of your own life. Embracing and loving yourself and accepting things as they are is the key and the ticket to evolution. The more we are in denial about what we don't want or how we're not getting there, that slows us down. So I want you to be mindful of your own illusions and delusions or unrealistic expectations. The first time I had a class with my yoga teacher that took me through teacher training, I couldn't, my feet, like I have scar tissue in my feet from different surgeries, and I couldn't do some of this stuff. And I was getting kind of like frustrated that I couldn't do some of the postures like all the other yogis. And so after, again, this is my first class with her. And after class, she said, "Does anybody have questions?" Of course, I went up and I'm like, "My feet don't move like y'all's do." And she goes, "It sounds like you have an expectation. It sounds like you have an expectation." And I was like, whoa, that is the yoga. I had an expectation that my physical body was going to be different than it was. And that is insanity, right? That's crazy. So, Neptune and Aries, this is a connection to your higher power. This is a connection to your spiritual side. And I encourage you to just explore that relationship. All right, we're in the second quarter, Aries. This has a bigger focus on home for you. And so home improvement, home development, things having to do with your roots and your lineage and the place that you have as refuge. Okay, so this second quarter is about home for you. Saturn then moves into your sign. So we've got Neptune, right? The cool yoga teacher. And then we've got Saturn, which I consider like the military granddad of the skies. And this is when we're on time, when we are structured, when we have plans. Both of my granddads were in the military, and they were wonderful, wonderful humans who received many awards for their service. But I have like this idea of a memory, I guess, of one of them who would make all the grandkids order the same thing whenever we went out to eat. And that is so like we're gonna order, we're gonna get it done, it's gonna be efficient, it's gonna be on time, well, let's move through here, like that's very Saturn to me. So that's part of the energy of Saturn. It's also the karma boomerang. We're in a 9-year. Seeds that you have planted are coming back to you, for you. Life is happening through you, not to you, right? So Saturn and Aries might show you some more places where you can have some self-discipline. Aries rules the face and the head. And so I feel like we're also going to have some advancement when it comes to optometry, when it comes to dentistry, when it comes to chiropractic and elder care. Those are all Saturn bones, structures, wise elders, mentors. I even have some friends that are opening elder care and dementia facilities right now, and they'll be ready to open as this shift occurs, Saturn and Aries. So for you particularly Aries, you are starting a new foundation. You're building something new that was meant to last. And the reason the second quarter is important for your home and family is that Jupiter moves into the sign of Cancer. Jupiter in spiritual development shows us where we are growing our faith, right? Where we're growing our faith, where we're learning new languages and broadening our horizons. And so maybe you want to learn the language of astrology. Maybe you want to learn the language of cooking, right? Cancer. Maybe you want to learn the language of your own intuition and your psychic abilities. Jupiter shows us not only just our spiritual growth, but it shows us also about the way that we understand the world, our worldview. It shows us information about long journeys. So some of you might be planning a long journey home or a ancestral journey, like a trip to your place of origin. So for you, Aries, right, themes of real estate expansion, kitchen renovation, family growth, and enhanced intuition couple that main forecast with things for you specifically. Your house is your temple. It's your sanctuary. Is it clean? Is it in order? Do you have space for spiritual development? Do you sleep well? Or is there stuff that keeps you up at night that bothers you? As you look out into your home, is there anything that you're really lamenting or doesn't feel stable? Is there something that what is your home reflecting to you, Aries? And journal about that and make some adjustments. All right, here in July, Mercury will retrograde in fire sign Leo. And for you, right, retrogrades redo, revise, reassess, edit, clean, organize. You're reworking Leo things, matters of the heart. You're reworking your own innocence, your own childlike wonder, the things that you're passionate about, your creative endeavors. And so I want you to be able to take some of the heat off of yourself, take the pressure off so that you can reconnect into that childlike wonder, that inner child. What did your little kid want to do, your inner child, when they grew up? All right, for your third quarter, sweet Aries, just keep on breathing. Okay, so this song, Keep on Breathing, is what came up when I was doing this forecast for you. So Uranus has been in Taurus for the last 7 years, an earth sign. It's moving into Gemini July 7th here through 2033. That's a long time, but it's a big shift. It's a big change from Taurus to Gemini, right? Themes we're going to see have to do with aerial photography, drones, solar eruptions here, educational reform, different ways to share and exchange information, space travel, space communication. We might see some extreme weather events, of course. Gemini rules the hands, the wrists, and so there could be some innovations in shoulder, wrists surgeries, things like this. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so again, nervous system health and making decisions with a clear, clean nervous system. For you, right, Gemini falls in your third house, right? So there's for Aries, there's going to be a specific thirst for learning. And I feel like you're going to get information overload, of course, that you're going to be able to access all kinds of new data points and pieces of information. I saw the coolest video the other day about somebody who was putting an entire ebook on, I don't know, like a cell of your DNA. And so the DNA within can access this entire ebook. It kind of reminded me of like Akashic Records, where all the information in the universe is available to you and you can tap into it. So you don't have to carry it all in your physical system. You can just kind of on-off switch, on access information and off like you're in your own physical world again. So you're going to absorb new ideas quickly. This is a year year and years to allow yourself to stay curious. Just stay open-minded, stay curious. Gemini rules our siblings and our neighborhoods too. So there could be interesting developments for you, Aries, in your family group and in your environment, like your neighborhood. Okay. All right, now in September, we have our next set of eclipses. Okay, so this one on September 7th is in 15 Pisces, and it is telling a story of something that started back in March of 2024. So Pisces eclipses tend to be draining, drowsy, right? It's like a pulling water effect. We had one in 2024 where we had a lot of water issues in the news. The local pool closed in one city. We had a boil water notice in another city. I had a friend that had a mold disaster, the pipes break. Now, I'm not predicting bad things for a Pisces eclipse. I'm saying there should be an awareness around water issues. So before you get to this point, right, before something has to happen, do you have your water filtration system set up in a way that you want? Are you blessing the water around you? Like, have you checked out the work of Masaru Emoto, who has phenomenal work in science with his water experiments, right? So what do we need to disintegrate? What do we need to just let go of? Something needs to fall apart with this eclipse. And so ask yourself, how can I slow down and reflect? How can I take more time for myself, right, Aries? How can I pay attention to my dreams and intuition? Those are ruled by Pisces. Your dreams will give you important messages about your health, especially if you ask. So this is a practice in terms of spiritual development. So if you're wanting help with dream interpretation or even accessing your dreams, right, this is something to study. All right. So the second eclipse is in Virgo. So the Virgo Pisces pipeline of health and wellness, you know this coming. You have the advantage. You know that in March and September, there's going to be that awakening or that aha moment where we need to do something different with our health. So prepare your system on the way there. Take the right vitamins for you. Stay hydrated, all of those things. And just be ready, right? Like be ready that there's going to be too much work or not enough, and that the reality check is also for your routine. Right? So reorganizing yourself, your work habits, how you flow through the day, studying your own birth chart or your human design chart, understanding if you're like that person that needs order or that person that needs things to be different every day, and then focus on the systems that support you and your unique self. All right, September 21st is a new moon solar eclipse, so it will kick off a new 2.5-year cycle, and those are the dates that you'll see the themes unfold. All right, the last quarter of the year for you, Aries, yeah, dancing through the fire. You're gonna hear me roar, as the song goes. This is, I think, gonna be a good theme for you to embrace. And so we're gonna get to your whole theme of the year. But first, there's another retrograde cycle, basically all of November. Of course, with each of the retrogrades, there's a retro shade period 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. So things feel a little nebulous before and after, that's normal. But during this retrograde period, what are you going to redo about yourself, right, Aries? It's in this fire sign of Sag, and it will back up into water sign Scorpio. So this kind of falls in your like 8th and 9th houses, right? And so this is why those themes are there. You're seeing a need to get along with your band. You're a great lead singer, Aries. You're the best, you're the hottest, you're the smartest, but you have to have a bass player and a guitar player and a keys player and a drummer to help you shine, right? And so you've got to get along with your band. And so this is going to be a good consideration for you in November, and how you share your resources. So not everybody's in a band, it's just my metaphor here, but how are you sharing your resources? Do you need to share your resources? Do adjustments need to be made with that? Now, Scorpio rules power, right? Pluto, it rules this need for resources and power. And so you're redeveloping, you're redoing something, revamping something when it comes to your power source, right? And so in my lineage, in my tradition, we have one power source. That one is God, your higher power. And so sometimes when I try to get into control or direct or make things go the way I want, I usually end up really disappointed. So this is a reminder, right, in my lineage that we need to co-create with our higher spirit, our higher power. So facing fears, right? Where would a reality check help you out? Recirculating the light through old secrets, buried treasure, and things that you haven't thought about. Scorpio rules estate planning, of course, sex, death, and taxes. So there could be some issues there that you are recirculating back around, reworking some things. All right, your main theme, Aries, for 2025 is going to be about leadership. Pluto moving into Aquarius, this is going to be an anchor for you to realize, right? Aquarius rules our networks, our groups, the circles of people we are involved with. And so I don't want you to be on isolation island making decisions by yourself over there. I want you to be involved in a circle of people and wait for an invitation into the leadership role, or offer yourself and see if it's accepted, and you'll know if it's the right group or not. But there are mighty, mighty changes going on in our neighborhoods, in our families, in our geopolitical, socioeconomic circles, religious circles, lots of changes. People are switching things up, right? That's good. But you are going to be drawn to a particular group. It might be different than you've ever thought before. And I want you to be ready to be the best kind of spiritual leader that you can be. This is going to require that you really know your spiritual mission. So where is Mars in your chart? And what does that tell you about your fire and your mission statement? How can you focus your fire? How can you embrace the power of a collective effort to create some more meaningful connections and allow something to happen through you, so that it's not about you, but that you are a vessel for something bigger to happen with your beautiful leadership skills? So that brings us to the end of the year. Just a reminder that you have the code Stormie 2025 to grab your digital astrology calendar that goes with you through any time zone. Let the universe have your back this year. If you'd like to stay connected with me, again, I'm Tiffany Harelik at tiffanyharelik.com. A reminder that you have your free horoscope PDF in the link below. You can find me on YouTube, podcast. I send out a Friday forecast. I have a spiritual development membership that's based on astrology. I'd love to have you in our group. I mentioned 40 Days of Spirit earlier. It's an email product that you just go day by day and get new tools and strategies to learn about your psychic abilities. And yeah, I do retreats. And so if you want me to come to your area, I'd love to. Last year we did Tulum and Austin, and in 2025 we were doing Santa Fe and Malibu, and I'm also happy to travel to you. So my main message for you guys is always to love each other, right? We're called to love people, serve God, and feed the people. So love each other, feed each other, and love God, and have a beautiful year. And on behalf of everybody, from the 2025 forecast team, we are just sending you prosperity, goodness, abundance, and blessings. And please stay tuned because we have more goodies coming for you all throughout the year. We're so glad you're here. We're glad your paths have crossed. And, there's no mistake that you got this video today. So hopefully you can take something from it and set your intentions and have an amazing 2025. Thank you guys for the opportunity to do this work together, and namaste.